Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Take Three podcast. My name is Brandon, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Alex. We're here on a Thursday afternoon, once again, just a couple hours from the game everybody's excited for tonight. We got the Broncos going on the road to Cleveland. We'll cover that one. I don't know. It's kind of a rundown matchup. If the teams are at full strength, I might be a little bit enticed to watch it, but kind of Denver's fading, Cleveland, where obviously both teams are fading. It's kind of just another one of those weeks, right? It's you look at the entire slate, and it's a lot of either 500 teams playing really bad teams, or it's two bad teams playing each other. I mean, we at least get a Chiefs kind of a test. It's a game where if you looked at it and you mapped out the season before the season, you kind of said, yeah, the Chiefs going to Tennessee, they could maybe afford to drop this game. Yeah, they'll be 4-2, they'll be 5-1, like they can lose a ball game. No, at this point, they're now 500. They're going on the road 4-2 Tennessee. This is kind of like a must-win game. I don't know if they want to be 3-4 as they continue on. I believe this is entering a pretty tough, a little bit of a tough stretch of their schedule. So it's like they don't want to drop games. They've kind of dug themselves a hole, to be honest. And then the other intriguing matchup in the afternoon is obviously the AFC North. Wow, I'm awful with mistakes. The AFC North, the Bengals. It's a test for them too. We're going to find out a lot about the Bengals. They go on the road to play the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, we've been talking about him the past couple of weeks. Everything that the Ravens have been doing, but the Bengals, they've been keeping pace too. They're 4-2. They've put together a nice little season through 6 games. But this is really, like, I would say, outside that Packers game, this is like the first test going on the road division game. We're going to find out what they're made of. Just on the scope of things, I mean, what do you see going into week 7? Obviously a light slate. How are we feeling as week 7 opens up?
Yeah, this is the first week of the season that I'm looking at the schedule, and there's not like a ton of matchups that really excite me. I can tell that there's some good football teams on bye weeks. It's just one of those, we're in the middle of the season, one of those more boring Sundays, but there are a couple games to carry us through. So we will talk about that at least.
Yeah, there's at least a couple, and then I mean, always it seems like one of these games that we're just completely writing off is going to pop up and it'll end up being fun somehow. It'll be a shootout, or field goal kickers will start missing and make the game interesting. Something is bound to happen, or the Lions will go on the road and push the Rams for their money. So something, I always expect something stupid that's kind of out of the realm of possibility sitting here on a Thursday to actually occur on a Sunday. But yeah, I mean, we might as well jump straight into it. Thursday night football on the cusp. Obviously, you can see by the graphic. Yeah, Baker Mayfield's out. Teddy Bridgewater doesn't really deserve to kind of be on this. He's kind of fell off the past couple weeks. So I went with 2 defenders. You got Von Miller, Myles Garrett. It's kind of the key names. Broncos going on the road. They're kind of trying to pick things back up. They got the brakes beat off of them last week by the Raiders after the firing of John Gruden. That was kind of a surprising result for me. I kind of expected Denver at home to just beat up on the Raiders, right? Beat them up when they're down and take advantage. They didn't do that. They got worked. And then you got a Browns team as well. They're seriously, they're in some injury trouble. Baker Mayfield, he's fully torn left labrum. He's kind of working through it. I guess they're trying to put off surgery, but he's out tonight. So Case Keenum's going to go. Obviously, he's worked with Kevin Stefanski before in Minnesota. They worked together. I believe Keenum was 11-3 under Stefanski when he was offensive coordinator. So if you're a Browns fan, you got something to look at there. But everything else just looks down. The running backs, obviously, no Kareem Hunt, no Nick Chubb again. I believe they're starting first-time starter at right tackle. The O-line's beat up. They're just in bad shape through 6 weeks, to be honest. A team that kind of looked very good early on has suddenly just ran into injury trouble. I mean, what do you see looking at Thursday night? It's kind of, you got to throw all the stat sheets and everything that we know about these teams. You kind of got to toss it out the window with all the injuries, and now Case Keenum being inserted into the frame.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those uglier games. It was okay on paper when both teams are healthy, but now with all the injuries, it's kind of brutal. But it's one of those games when you look at it, both teams really need to win. Pretty disappointing with Denver last Sunday. I thought that they would just play better against the Raiders, especially when the Raiders are coming off all that Gruden drama. They're kind of uncertain. You would think that Denver at home would get it done. So I don't know. They just leave a lot of question marks for me. They started the season hot, but their opponents weren't very good. So there were those question marks, and we thought we were going to learn a lot about Denver. And we've learned quite a bit the last few weeks. They're not as good as we thought they were. And I just don't have a lot of faith in them. But fortunately for them, they face a Cleveland Browns team that's so beat up. It's hard to have confidence in them. As for like missing the running backs, that really sucks. But to me, it's more about the offensive line. I don't think they'll have their right tackle tonight, Jack Conklin. I think they get their left tackle back, Jedrick Willis. So hopefully that'll help. If they can just get the run game going with the Ernest Johnson and hopefully just make enough plays and move the ball down the field. I think Case Keenum is certainly capable of doing that. He had a good year in Minnesota. He's a vet. He's been around. He started enough NFL games that I think they can get the offense going enough. I just would side with Cleveland in this game just because I think they're going to bounce back. I think they have a better roster, even with the injuries. I think they're a better football team than Denver is. And I would just lean on Case Keenum to just do just enough that the Cleveland Browns escape with a win by like a field goal.
He's riding in a high with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, yeah, you're really riding high with the Ernest Johnson. I don't know. Looking at the Browns with and without Nick Chubb since 2020, they're 12-5 with Nick Chubb, averaging 172 yards on the ground per game. When Nick Chubb's not there, they're 2-3 with 91 rush yards per game. So they take a significant dip in their style, their defense. The past 2 weeks, the Browns, they've allowed 35 plus in 2 straight weeks. That's concerning. Yeah, I just don't. It's just I believe Odell, he's doubtful. It's just I don't know. I just don't know if the Browns have enough on offense. It's kind of a one-trick pony. If you're going to try and, I know Jarvis Landry's back, but it's like, who's really going to scare you on that offense? Case Keenum sure as hell not scaring anybody. I mean, he had his 1 year in Minnesota where he was kind of like a threat and a real deal NFL quarterback. But I look at that Browns offense and they just don't have anything. A first-time starter at right tackle. I see Von Miller. He said going into the week, I don't know who's playing at right tackle, but I'm going to kill him. So I expect him to be screaming off the edge. And but I mean, you're spot on also about the Broncos. Weeks 1 through 3, they played bums, and they really were good at getting people to sort of buy in. And it was super weird. Their defense only allowed roughly 9 points a game. And then you watch them weeks 4 through 6, they're allowing 28 points per game and 400 yards. So it's kind of a tale of two tapes. Yeah, it's really, I mean, the line's all the way down to 1.5. I'm just rolling with the Broncos. I think they got embarrassed last week. I don't think Vic Fangio on that defense will get embarrassed 2 weeks in a row. I expect them to kind of get their run game going a little bit. Find Cortland Sutton. He's been hands of glue. I don't think he has a drop on the year, and he has 50 targets. I think over 50 targets by now. I just think they'll be able to do enough. I don't trust Case Keenum, and I sure as hell I don't trust Ernest Johnson. No offense. I don't know who else is in that backfield either, but they're going to show us, I guess, a different style of football because I don't know how much they're really going to want to hand the rock off, and I also don't know how much you want Case Keenum dropping back when you know that Von Miller is going to be coming all night.
Yeah, I don't really blame you for those takes. Like, that's perfectly reasonable to not trust them. There's a reason they're backups, right? There's a reason they don't start NFL games to begin with. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in either of these teams, so I'm just kind of slightly lean towards the Browns. But I have a hypothetical for you. Let's say the Browns drop this game and then Baker's still not looking good. Is there a scenario where you just kind of shut Baker down? Because they're already talking about that he needs surgery in the offseason. And they're already in like a weird scenario because, like, do you re-sign Baker? Is he good enough to like get it done with all these other good quarterbacks in the AFC? So like, I don't know if you're Cleveland, like, what do you do with Baker? Do you just kind of ride this season out and just have him play through it and just say y'all are good enough, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a weird two-headed dragon, right? Because you're going to look at it from Cleveland's front office perspective. They're going to want him to probably try to push it, come out and play just to try to kill his value, right? They know he's not 100%. They know he's not going to play at the normal clip when he would be 100%. So it's going to kind of kill that value. They know they're about to go into a contract negotiation, whether it's this offseason or into next year. And then, yeah, if I'm looking at it from Baker Mayfield's perspective, I'm probably going to go opt and get surgery. Next year is probably the biggest year of his football career. I'm assuming they're going to give him the fifth-year option to kind of prolong the extensions on the negotiation. So if you're Baker Mayfield, this season's kind of, it looks like a lost cause. You're so beat up. Your offensive line's so beat up. Defense is kind of beat up. Your 2 running backs, which your whole offense runs through, they're injured. I mean, if you're looking at it, Baker Mayfield, I would probably – punt on this year. It's already looking like this year suddenly. I mean, it's crazy how fast it went downhill. But I mean, if you're him, I would probably go get the surgery, be 100% next year, because next year is definitely the most important year of his career to date. But obviously for the Browns, you want him to kind of stagnate his value and kind of push it a little further down so you get that leverage.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good thought process to it. I also think the dude that Baker is, just the kind of player he is, that he's going to want to gut it out personally. Like, he's not going to make the smart longevity decision. Baker's just a warrior. He just wants to fucking play.
Yeah, 100%. But it is interesting because going into this week or after last week, they asked him, "Yeah, will you be there Thursday night?" And he said, "It's my decision. If I want to play, I'll be there." And now we see it's come Thursday night. It's
Oh,
clearly
interesting.
not. Yeah, it's clearly not his decision as they roll with Case Keenum. So yeah, it's like a weird two-headed thing. I don't know. If I was him, I would definitely just get the surgery. It sounds weird to kind of punt on a season 6 weeks in, but I'd rather be 100 next year than kind of try to force yourself through this year where it's already fading so fast. But yeah, let's move on. Next, moving on into the Sunday slate, we got the Bengals and the Ravens, another AFC North or two AFC North teams kind of meeting up, as we said in the beginning of this thing. It's really the first like gut check game for the Bengals. They obviously played the Packers, got into a field goal kicking contest. McPherson and Mason Crosby, neither of those guys wanted to win and be the hero. So we saw how that game went. The Packers escape finally. It's kind of a tough loss if you're a home, if you're a Bengals guy, lose that home game. And then we've seen what Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have been able to do. They can pass it, they can run it. If nothing's there, if Lamar's throwing interceptions, maybe they'll play a little bit of defense and harass Justin Herbert, force him into some interceptions. They've just found ways to win ball games. It doesn't matter if they're down, if they're leading, obviously tough train to stop because they'll just get that run game going with the mixture of backs. It seems like, as I said, preseason when everybody went down, they just seem to be one of those teams where you can just filter in a running back and they'll find a way to score a touchdown or give you 50 yards. And the way they rotate in Greg Roman's offense, if you can just you can pound the rock with any combination, including Lamar Jackson, and just eat the clock up, you will find a way to win. But I mean, it's a big one for the Bengals. I would say they kind of want to cement themselves as, hey, we're here, like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, all the defensive acquisitions we made in the offseason. Like, we're a real threat, not only in the AFC North, but the AFC as a whole. What do you see going into this Sunday in Baltimore?
Yeah, this is one of the fun games of the weekend. I think it's going to be a close matchup, division game, obviously. But I think it's a big game for both teams for different reasons. The Bengals want to show they're legit. They want to beat Baltimore. They'd be 5-2. And then there's really no arguments against Cincinnati if they're going to beat Baltimore. They have arrived at that point. You got to take them seriously. But for Baltimore, you want to beat your division rival, obviously, but then you make a good amount of space in the AFC North. So if you beat Cincinnati, then you'd be 6-1. They'd be 4-3. You have a 2-game cushion at the very least to the team closest in second place, closest to you in the division. So that's a big deal for Baltimore down the stretch. I think this could give them quite a big gap on the division. But I think the game's going to be close. Cincinnati has shown that they've been competitive in all their games. But the one thing I've been really impressed with Cincinnati is their D-line and their defense in general. It's played really well so far this year, and it's going to be legitimately a test for Lamar Jackson. They've done really well against run games, but like the beauty of this Ravens team this year is once I've keep going on here and saying how resilient they are, and they've been able to show that they can win through the air. So I think this is going to be another one of those weeks where the Ravens have to win through the air, but I'm very impressed with the Bengals and what they've done so far. I think their defense is going to do a pretty good job of slowing down Lamar to the best that you can slow down an offense like that. And I think it's going to be a close game. I have Baltimore winning it still because I'm just very high on the Ravens. I think they cement that they're the team to beat in the AFC. But I think the Bengals keep it close, cover the spread, show that they're a legitimate team and they're here competing.
Yeah, I respect that. It's funny that you say that, yeah, the Ravens are going to go have to attack through the air. We've seen what they're able to do. They usually like to run the ball. They found a way to attack. And it looks like the flip side for the Bengals. I mean, we've seen the Bengals and Zach Taylor's offense. They like to spread it out, throw the ball, get Jamar Chase downfield, get T. Higgins out there, get Tyler Boyd, Uzama, and all their weapons kind of out on the perimeter and spread defenses out. But when you look at Baltimore's defense, they've allowed fewer than 200 pass yards in 3 of their last 4 games. So, I mean, we see maybe that's not the way to attack that. Maybe it's heavy Joe Mixon. Maybe you run the ball and kind of go straight at the Ravens the way they usually go at teams, control the clock, and don't let Lamar Jackson go on the field and kind of take over the game. I sit back and I just don't know if I trust Zach Taylor to do that, right? Zach Taylor, I love the Bengals. I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase. I love that defensive front and what they can do. But I mean, one complaint, I know a Bengals fan, every week he just complains, he rips Zach Taylor. He's like, I don't know what these play calls are. I don't know what Zach Taylor's doing. And this is kind of the first big divisional matchup with him coaching a game like this where there's legitimate expectation. You're not a 4-2 club, right? You're not an 0-6 team. You're not a garbage 1-5 squad. Like you're in this division through 6 games, and you're going on the road to a team that's kind of, they're kind of the staple of the AFC North, or at least they have been throughout the years. So I just don't know. I can't buy into Zach Taylor really tailoring a game plan when it says run the ball. I don't know if he will be that smart to do that. I would love to see it. I mean, I have Joe Mixon on a fantasy team. I'd love to see a heavy Joe Mixon game, but I just don't know if he'll do that. And then another stat, I guess Joe Burrow is 0-3 in his career versus fellow Heisman quarterbacks. I don't know. That really doesn't, it's just kind of one of those random ass stats that kind of doesn't really mean anything, but it's just funny to look at. And also another nod to the Bengals defense, as you mentioned, that front with Trey Hendrickson and those guys are being so good. They've allowed 25 or fewer points in each game this year. They're the only team in the league to do that. So they've played stout defense, but as we've seen, Lamar breaks the code of defenses, right? Like he stresses the defenses to the max. When you have him bottled up, he'll scramble out. When you think he's going to scramble out, he showed great poise in the pocket this year where he'll kind of just chill in there and decipher, hit Mark Andrews, get his guys going. So it's really going to be, it's going to be the ultimate test for the Bengals. I love this game. I love that the Bengals are 4-2 going into this game. They're looking good, and I love that we're going to really find out how good Cincinnati is going forward.
Yeah, and I don't think it's really that crazy for Cincinnati to just straight up win this game. It's definitely in the realm of possibility. Yeah, 6.5 point dogs is kind of a bit, but I don't know, division game, they played well. Like, I just really wouldn't be surprised if they actually pulled off. And if they do pull it off, every week we talk about like the hierarchy of the AFC, and it keeps getting more complicated because the Titans just beat the Bills, and it's only going to get more complicated if Cincinnati somehow pulls this off.
You never know, dude. Yeah, we might be coming on next Tuesday saying, we've been talking to slide the Chiefs farther back. We got to slide the Bengals up. They went on the road and beat the Ravens. Did we slide the Ravens down now because the Bengals went into their house and smacked them? So that is that's great. I didn't really think about that, but that definitely makes it even more interesting. It's like shuffling a deck of cards every week with these AFC teams. It's so close though. That's how it really is any given Sunday in the AFC. It's really any given Sunday in the entire league right now. As we've said before, there's not really one team that's kind of, obviously Arizona is 6-0, but it's like even they're not like a lock. Like you don't sell everything and put it on them. But let's jump straight into the next one, Sunday afternoon as well. They'll be rolling at the same time. Kind of a massive game for the Chiefs, at least big game for the Titans as well. You want to get another win, get to 5-2, but we got the 3-3, the 500 Chiefs. Didn't think I'd be saying that in the preview to this season, going on the road to obviously face Derrick Henry. We've seen what that man's done. He's on pace to set rushing records. He's on pace. He could break the touchdown record, which is crazy to think. I believe LaDainian Tomlinson's touchdown record was 28 rushing touchdowns in a year. Or is either 28 or 29. Derrick Henry, he's on pace to definitely push that. Guy's like a machine. Teams know that they're going to hand him the rock, and they just still can't seem to stop him. He's like one of those cheat codes. He's like the Lamar Jackson of running backs. It's like, you know what you have to do to stop him, but you just can't. You get 3 guys, he somehow breaks out and does his thing. And then Patrick Mahomes, we've seen what that man can do. They kind of put it all together. Second half last week in Washington, really got the offense going, played a clean half of football, probably maybe for the first time this year. I guess you could say against the Eagles, they kind of chewed them up, but they're kind of put it together. They're trending upwards going into this, at least offensively. I don't know about defensively, but what do you see here? It's kind of, as we said before we even loaded this up, it's kind of, now it's a must win for the Chiefs. I don't know if the Chiefs want to be 3-4 going forward, leaving Tennessee. What do you see here?
Yeah, a huge game for Kansas City, which feels so weird to say because it's the Chiefs, but they're sitting at 3-3 and they really can't afford to drop this game. And then for Tennessee, they're riding high off the Monday night victory. And you don't want to say you can afford to lose a game, but they're in the AFC South. Like the Titans are probably not going to get the 1 seed, so they're more just worried about securing their division. And Carson Wentz and the Colts had a terrible start, so the Titans have much more wiggle room for error, which to me just puts more pressure on Kansas City this upcoming Sunday. And I'm just worried about the Chiefs. like you said last week, they finally put together a good half of football, the second half against Washington. But Washington has shown us that they're not a very good team this year. And the Kansas City's defense, I don't see how they slow down Derrick Henry and what that Tennessee offense does. Because the Mahomes and that offense is going to do what they do, especially against a Tennessee secondary that leaves a lot to be desired. Tennessee secondary is not very good, and you're facing the best passing offense in the league. Like the Kansas City's offense is going to do what they do. They're going to put up a ton of points, but it's all about can they stop Tennessee, because Tennessee is very capable of outscoring them. And I don't know, I like Tennessee in this game. I don't have a lot of confidence in Kansas City right now. They've still turned the ball over last week, even though they played well in the second half. They haven't not turned the ball over since week one, I think. And I just don't have a lot of confidence in that defense. And I think the line is crazy. The Chiefs, it was 5.5. Now it's down to 4.5. And they're the favorites on the road. I don't know. Them being the favorites is all right with me, but I don't think that spread should be as big as it is. I would have thought the Chiefs would have been like 1.5 to 2.5 point favorites, not 5.5 to 4.5. It's kind of weird to me, but I'm all over Tennessee this week. The Chiefs defense just terrifies me. I don't think they're going to be able to stop them.
Yeah, it's I don't know if there's any defensive unit in the league that's built to kind of stop Derrick Henry. He's another guy that breaks defenses. But certainly, yeah, when you look at the Chiefs defense, they haven't really been able to stop anything. Like they just get gouged, whether it's running, broken coverages. Obviously, we saw it in the Bills game. Coverage is broken, letting up points there. Yeah, it's really, for me, it's can Patrick Mahomes and can Andy Reid and can Bieniemy, can those guys get back to the basics, not needing to do the fancy stuff, not needing to do the running around backyard football, drop back 35 yards, throw it up in the air to a guy that has 99 speed and scoring a touchdown? Can they do the basics? Can they pound the rock a little bit with Darrell Williams? Can they get him running? Can they do the basic stuff across the middle? It's been there all year. The Travis Kelce 10-yard in has been there the entire year. Just for some reason, they don't go to it. And it kind of drives me crazy when watching them. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's will Patrick Mahomes turn the rock over? If he doesn't turn the rock over and give Derrick Henry and the Titans extra possessions, I surely think that the Chiefs could go in there and win it. The line is kind of wild when you look at like the scope of how these teams are looking. Like the Titans have trended all the way up since week one, and we've kind of watched the Chiefs kind of they've kind of trended downwards and then kind of picked it up in the second half last week. Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. It's if they can play clean football. I went with the Chiefs, to be honest. I don't know. I guess I'm buying into
Wow.
I'm buying into Andy Reid to kind of put it together, Patrick Mahomes to play a clean game of football, and then just absolutely finally erupt. Like it feels like I've said for weeks now, they're kind of they're bound to erupt as a team and play a clean week of football. And I don't know. I guess I'm rolling with I guess I'm figuring that Vegas knows something and they're kind of feeling it. And yeah, that's really what I got. I mean, I just hope Patrick Mahomes, if he doesn't turn the rock over, because as you mentioned, the Titans defense bad, pretty beat up secondary. Caleb Fairley out for the year, torn ACL. The Chiefs should be able to have a field day if they just keep it simple. Like that's their problem. They don't keep it simple. They've kind of adopted this all or nothing habit, and they've gotten away with it over the past 2 years going to the Super Bowl. And I feel like this year it's became like their mortal enemy. They're getting beat by their own talent and their own flaws.
Yeah, I would agree with the home run thing. They try and hit too many home runs. And I can't really fault you for just picking the Chiefs, because just 2 weeks ago when it was Sunday night against the Bills, I said, I really like the Bills. I think they're in a better spot, but I'm just going to pick the Chiefs because we all expect one of these weeks for them just to like put it together and rout one of these really good teams. So I don't know. Could be this Sunday.
Yeah. It's yeah, I mean, it's got to happen at some point. It's kind of now or never, as you said. You don't want to be 3-4. Yeah, you don't want to fall back below 500, knowing your division, where it's at with the Chargers. Yeah, so that's kind of, I'm just rolling them to be all or nothing. Andy Reid maybe finally make an adjustment and do something, but I do not expect them to be able to stop Derrick Henry by any stretch. Derrick Henry's coasting to another 100, probably $150. Give him 2 touchdowns too. It's already 14-0. Like I'll put the 2 touchdowns on the board already for Derrick Henry because they just have no answers.
Mahomes plays better down 14-0 anyway.
That's what I'm saying. If it somehow becomes a Mahomes versus Tannehill game, Tannehill really hasn't been that good this year. So I'll take my odds with number 15 in red. But yeah, let's keep it pushing. Sunday night Football, we got Carson Wentz, another team who Carson Wentz is kind of trending upwards. He's looked pretty damn good the past 2 weeks, to be honest. He played fairly flawless outside of a fumble on Monday Night Football against the Ravens, and then came out last week against the Texans, throttled them. I know it's the Texans, but I mean, you still got to come out. It's an NFL team. You still got to come out and look good, play well. And he carried the Colts, him and Jonathan Taylor carried the Colts to a 31-3 victory. And then we got a 49ers team. They're kind of in a weird spot right now, 2-3. Obviously, they've had their quarterback injuries. All their running backs also get hurt, which kind of puts a wrench in Shanahan's plans, because we know how heavy they are on the run game and with their motion offense and kind of getting that zone run together. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he's back. I believe I heard Kyle Shanahan say he's on track. He said, Jimmy Garoppolo said himself, the calf feels great. Obviously, calf injuries. I mean, we've seen it with who was it last year in the NBA playoffs? James Harden. He said his calf felt great and he played 3 minutes and bang. And then he wasn't really the same when he came back in Game 7. So calf injuries, they're kind of weird. I don't know what Jimmy Garoppolo will look like. And what do you see here? The 49ers have I was so high on them before the season, but now I'm fading them hard. Like I can't buy in to the 49ers right now. Just something's not there.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how fast things change, because I'm low on the Browns, which I thought were going to be a really good team. I'm low on the 49ers, which I thought were going to be a really good team. But injuries, they can just ravage these good teams. Because, this is one of those games heading into the season, looking at it on paper, I go, oh, Niners W, and I feel good about it because they're a better team when they're all healthy. But the Niners are far from healthy, and the Colts have looked way better the last few weeks. They're starting to put it together. And they look like the football team I expected them to look like to start the season. It took them like a month to put it all together, but they're 2-4. They had a close game against Baltimore on Monday night. They are very close to just kind of flipping their season around. This is a big game for both teams. Both teams need to get a W to turn their season around. Both teams have the belief that they're playoff teams still. And when you look at the rosters on paper, you can believe it, but as of right now, the Niners are really beat up, and I just like how the Colts have played. Carson Wentz looks like a real NFL quarterback again. He's not playing fantastic or anything, but he's playing well. And I always like that Colts offensive line and that defense. Jonathan Taylor and that offensive line gets such a good push that Taylor can run all day. So it's like, heading into this, I would have picked the Niners in that zone run in that scheme, but I don't have a lot of faith. Their D line is still very good. They're kind of like holding that defense together, but I think it's one of those games where I like the road team. Sunday Night Football, they've played well the last 2 weeks. And looking at the line, just like with the Tennessee line, the Colts are +4 on the road. I can understand them being dogs, but I thought this would be a closer spread, like 2.5, maybe like a field goal. So I really like the Colts on the road here to cover the spread.
Yeah, I mean, I'm straight with you with the Colts over the past 3 weeks. Wentz, man, 6 touchdowns, no picks, 123.4 passer rating. He's kind of gotten back to that 2017 MVP level quarterback, making smart throws, making smart decisions. Frank Reich setting him up well. He's just slinging the ball. And then, as you mentioned, Jonathan Taylor with that O-line, if they're able to let him eat. Now, I mean, another note, the 49ers defense, they haven't allowed 100-yard rushers since week 9 of 2019. So they've kind of played stout run defense, and they have shown that, they can shut down the run. Another interesting thing with the Niners, they're 1-9 at home or neutral site games since 2020. So it's like, usually teams look at, we're at home, Sunday Night Football, home field advantage. It's kind of been the opposite for the 49ers at home. They've kind of not been that good. And then it's another interesting thing when you look at Jimmy Garoppolo as a whole, is he kind of gets ripped on as maybe he's an average quarterback, he's not that good, this and that. But I mean, when you look at the 49ers with him since 2017, the 49ers offense, they are 24-10 as a team, 28 points per game scored. And then without him, they are 7-28, and they average 19.7 points a game. So it's almost like the guy that we look at that's kind of this mediocre average quarterback, not that good. He seems to be an important part of Kyle Shanahan's offense. Anyway, you try to twist it, when he's there, they are far in between a better football team. But it's really, I'm leaning with the Colts too. They're trending upwards. Both teams, it's crazy. These are like must-win games to get to this point where, if you fall to 2-5 if you're Indianapolis, you're starting to mail it in as well. And then same with the 49ers. You fall to 2-4. at home, lose that in that division where you get the Rams, and then you got obviously the Cardinals, two teams, one's 5-1, the other's 6-0. You're kind of already out of it through 7 weeks. Like your season, you're kind of punting on the season as well, and maybe looking at how can we develop Trey Lance to be ready for next season. But yeah, I'm all over it with you. Like Colts 4.5. I like where they are as a football team. They did just lose, I believe it's Terrell Blackman, Julian Blackman. That's who it is. Tore his Achilles Wednesday at practice. That kind of takes away from their secondary. But with Jimmy Garoppolo coming off an injury, I don't know how many deep shots really the 49ers are going to take. It's just, yeah, it's super interesting. I like where Wentz is at. I like the 4.5 I'm getting with the Colts. I would be rolling with them as well.
The 4.5 just simply seems too large to me. I just think that's a really good value.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's move on. Monday Night Football. I don't know if it's like the greatest matchup in the world. You got the Saints, Jameis Winston going on the road. Neither of these primetime games or any of these primetime games this week are really that great, but we got the Saints and Jameis Winston sitting at 3-2, going on the road to face Geno Smith and the Seahawks in Seattle. I really don't know what to say. It's kind of, I don't know how to really analyze the Saints because they're one team 1 week and then they look like a completely different team the next week. We've seen that Sean Payton clearly is going to pound the rock with Alvin Kamara. Got him a little bit involved in the pass game before the bye week. I think they were on a bye week last week. So they got him a little bit, but I mean, yeah, we see what they're going to do. They're going to kind of run the football, play clock, not let Jameis do too much. And it's kind of worked. I mean, you're above 500, you're 3-2 through 6 weeks. And then on the other side of the ball, the Seahawks season is just unraveling fast, right? They're 2-4 now, losing last week in overtime in Pittsburgh. Geno Smith, obviously, they wish Russell Wilson was out there. I kind of wish Russell Wilson was out there. It'd be more worthy of a watch than over Geno Smith. I mean, what do you see here? The Seahawks defense getting smoked, offense is beat up. I mean, you sit back and look at it, it should be a tailor-made game for the Saints and Jameis Winston to just kind of go into Seattle and get the job done. But, I mean, we've seen road games, weird stuff happens. What do you see here?
Yeah, so this is a really good spot for Jameis and the Saints, actually. Seattle's just a shell of themselves. I said it many times before. I don't think their roster is that good outside of a few key pieces. And when you don't have your Hall of Fame quarterback, it does not look super good. So obviously Russell Wilson's not going to play. So then you don't have a lot of faith in that Seattle offense, their passing attack. They're going to want to run the ball. The Saints have a very good run defense and a pretty decent secondary. So, like, I'm not worried about the Saints defensively. And then they get a lot of players back from practice this week, post-bye week. They get Traquan Smith, Will Lutz, Marcus Davenport, Quan Alexander. Those are all key players for the Saints. They're coming off a bye. They're rested. They're 3-2 on the year. They had the one bad Giants loss. And then I think the Panthers and Packers games were like polar opposites to kind of cancel each other out. So, like, this is an interesting Saints team. They're in a really good position Monday night to go into Seattle and get like a win. And they should win by a touchdown. They're a better team. There's no Russell Wilson. They have a good defense. They're coming off a bye week. They're getting key players back. This is a really good spot for New Orleans. And if they don't look good on Monday night or they don't play well, like, that's going to be pretty concerning. But they're in a good spot. They should be 4-2 at the end of Monday night. So we'll see.
Yeah, I like the Saints too. I mean, it's literally the worst defensive unit in football, maybe worst defensive unit that we might have ever seen. Like, they allow 430 yards per game, be the second most in a season since the merger. That's kind of concerning. And then when you look at the Saints with Sean Payton coming off a bye week since 2011, they averaged 30 points per game the following the week coming off the bye. So, I mean, everything just points in the direction of the Saints kind of having their way, regardless if they're on the road. You know, I mean, usually if Russell Wilson was there and then the 12th man in Seattle was kind of rocking on a Monday night, I'd say, you know what, some crazy stuff could happen, but it's just like Geno Smith doesn't have the same thing. The defense is horrible. And as you mentioned, the Saints defense, top 5 unit in the league, they're getting all those guys back off a bye week. Everybody's healthy. It just seems like a good time to go on a business trip to Seattle, get the job done. I think they're favored by 4.5. Yeah, I'd agree with you. I'd like them by a touchdown. I like where everything's rolling. They're facing a quarterback, Geno Smith. He hasn't won a game that he started and finished since 2014. That guy couldn't sniff a win. Unfortunate. Geno's a good guy, but yeah, he just doesn't know. He doesn't know what a win feels like. You know what I mean? And it's interesting just kind of watching this Seattle unit kind of trend downwards. Tyler Lockett, usually a home run threat. He's had fewer than 60 yards, and he hasn't had a touchdown in 4 straight games. That's kind of unheard of for them. Yeah, everything's just going poorly for Pete Carroll and his unit. You kind of got to you kind of got to wonder if they're going to look at, hey, maybe we should move Russell Wilson in this offseason and really plan to kind of just blow this thing up, which would be weird because they just traded for obviously Jamal Adams last year and just extended him. So it's like you would think, yeah, the goal is to keep Russell Wilson around and kind of build off of that and maybe try to pull some magic with DK Metcalf and those guys. But yeah, it just feels like the end of the Pete Carroll era, and it seems like it's going out. It feels eerily similar to kind of like the Andy Reid end in Philadelphia, where like when shit hits the fan, it really goes south fast, and that's kind of where we're at here. I like, as you said, Saints by a touchdown. Everything's trending upwards for them. If they don't look good, yeah, I mean, we're going to come on Tuesday for the Winston checkup and yeah, kind of let loose. But I don't expect that. I think Sean Payton's got his guys ready.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the end of an era in Seattle. I think Pete Carroll's getting close to the end here. I mean, he's 70. He was a very successful coach, but the times have changed. He hasn't really adapted well. If I'm Seattle, I try to hang on to Russell Wilson and trade literally anybody else and do whatever to rebuild the roster. But I don't really know if they're willing to do that, if Russ is willing to stay. But they're in a weird spot, and the ass kicking that New Orleans gives them will not help.
Yeah, I just don't know what else they have to trade, right? Like, you're really going to kickstart a rebuild. Like, there's no point in keeping Russell Wilson. Like, you might as well, he's your most valuable asset, and you could probably bring back a large haul of picks for him. I just don't know anything on the roster unless you're going to trade DK Metcalf, which is counterproductive to Russell Wilson in the offense, right? Because that's like a key target.
Yeah.
They're just kind of in a bad spot. Yeah, like you said, I mean, Pete Carroll's 70. He got his one win. He kind of defied the college to the NFL odds, got his ring, and it might be time for him to just ride off into the sunset and call it a career.
Yeah, totally agree.
For sure. But I mean, that'll kind of wrap up the slate, as we mentioned, kind of a weaker slate. I mean, you got Bucks, Bears, but I mean, we expect Tom Brady to kind of have his field day and just do his thing out there. Other than that, man, there's not really anything on the slate that's kind of like interesting remotely when I look at outside of the games that we covered. Well, yeah, we'll just move it into our weekly spread picks, our week 7 picks against the spread. Flip it over to their records are above. Everybody's separated by only 1 game. So everybody's in this thing since through 7 weeks. Yeah, just give me whatever you love, whatever line kind of was like, damn, like, I don't know if I should take this line. What do you love and hate out of the week 7 spreads?
I really like the Titans +5 at home. I just think that's way too many points. I know it's against the Chiefs, but I think that's too many points. And then the last 2 primetime games we just talked about, the Colts and the Saints. I like all 3 of those teams quite a bit. And then the one I just kind of went for, which I see you did as well, was Lions +15.5. I don't know. They've been competitive like every other game. They have to get a W eventually. Jared Goff going to play the Rams in LA. I don't know. I think crazier things can happen. I'm not confident in it, but I could see the Lions keeping it close.
Yeah, I went with the Lions as well. I don't know. They fight hard. Their coach cries at the podium when they lose by field goals. Wouldn't be surprised if they lost by a 70-yard field goal on Sunday. That just seems fitting for them. I mean, if you're looking to kickstart a kicking career, just join a team that plays the Lions, and you'll probably make a big one. Yeah, and then I'm rolling the dice on the Texans as well. 17.5. I just feel it's a lot of points. Big game that the Cardinals just came off of on the road, kind of throttled the Browns bad. Them go home. I think, I don't know, maybe they could lay an egg. As far as games, I also love the Panthers. Like, Panthers 2.5 going up against the Giants. The Giants are abysmal. They're a joke. I think Sterling Shepard missed practice. Evan Ingram once again missed. I don't think, has he ever played 2 weeks in a row in his career for the Giants?
A while.
So I'm saying it's been a while, but yeah, I also love those 2 prime times you mentioned. 4.5 for the Colts feels like a steal. Saints as well. And then I don't know. I hate tonight's line because it's like literally a coin flip. I'm literally trusting the Denver Broncos to pull some magic out of the hat for me. But yeah, that's really it. You got anything else on week 7 before we kind of close this thing up and get ready for Thursday night football and then head into the weekend?
I hope that the Eagles bounce back and are much more competitive against the Raiders. I say it every week that I just hope there's a good Eagles game, and that's always what I hope for heading into Sunday.
Yeah, maybe hopefully Sirianni can stay out of the casinos, and if he does, maybe he'll bet on the Miles Sanders over rush yards and hand him the rock all weekend. I would.
That's what he says supposedly.
Yeah, I would love to see some more running of the football, but I mean, hey, we'll see. Nick Sirianni, I can't even predict what that guy's going to do. I don't even think that guy knows what he's going to do. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's show. I want to thank everybody for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you have any suggestions, as we'd always love to hear feedback and opinions on what we can do to improve. As always, Spotify link will be posted in the description for audio only listeners that want to listen over on Spotify while you're on the car ride. Go ahead and give us a follow and a listen on there. And yeah, thanks everybody for listening. And we'll see you next Tuesday to really recap and unravel what happened in week 7.